everybody. Welcome to Menlo Midweek. My name is Mark.
My name is Jessica.
And it is just us
That's
today.
That's it, everybody. Don't stop listening.
I hope that they wouldn't, but we are in the midst of summer, which means there are people in and out.
Lots of vacations.
Lots of vacations, lots of people traveling. And I think it's really good because this is a great time for our staff to just get recharged because fall is such a big thing for us here at Menlo.
Things.
And with families in general. I mean, you have kids going back to school, all
Yeah.
that. Sometimes still busy, but different kind of busy.
Yeah.
So we are planning a little peek behind the lens here, curtain, whatever you want to say. I don't know. A campus takeover of the Menlo Midweek soon. And so we wanted to kick that off with a chance for you to get to know Jess and I a little bit better. Jess and me? Jess and I. Jess and me. I don't know.
I think it's me.
I think it's me.
I heard the trick is you take out the other word.
Yep.
So if you would say
Yes.
a chance to get to know I better.
Nope.
Or a chance to get to know me better. So then it's Jess and
Thank
me.
you.
I don't know if that's right.
Have you ever been a teacher?
I was a preschool teacher.
I was an English teacher.
So that's on you.
That is on me. Classic. But our hopes for these campus takeovers is that for the campuses to get to know, for you to get to know this campus staff a little bit more, for them to share hopes and dreams, what's going on at all of our different campuses across the Bay.
So fun.
And we want to do that too.
Yeah.
We're kind of in a unique position because what we do here definitely reaches all across to every campus. But also, we are now in a team building mode as well. And so we would like for you all to get to know us in the hopes that, hey, you might want to get involved with what we're doing here too.
Because you hear how great and fun we are with our answers to these questions coming up.
Exactly.
And you're like, me too. Let's be friends.
Exactly.
And volunteer for us.
Yes. And so the campus takeovers will look a lot different than this.
Yeah.
But what we're going to do is we're just going to ask each other a couple questions that we may or may not have seen beforehand. And we're just going to have some time to get to know Jess and Mark a little bit better. So, Jess, you ready?
Yeah.
You want to ask first, or do you want to be asked first?
I don't care.
All right, I'm going to ask you first.
Okay.
Okay. So, Jess, you are someone that is so into TVs, movies, pop culture in general. And as long as I've known you, you've always had a show or something that you've been going and cranking through. And I think that they're the same shows that you watch on repeat, but you might add some new ones in here and there. So right now, what show has been on in the background and what's next in the rotation?
Ooh, next. Okay. My current, well, I will say Friends is the one that's consistently constantly going on.
Yes.
My current one, and I asked Mark if I was allowed to say this word on the podcast, but it is the name of a TV show called Schitt's Creek. Because actually when the show first came out, they would do interviews. They had to bleep out or they couldn't say that name on TV.
Oh,
yeah.
How edgy.
It's on Hulu. It's a hilarious, wonderful show. If you haven't checked it out, it is a great one. Next on the rotation, I'll probably go back to Bob's Burgers.
Oh,
That's another favorite of mine. That one's that one's a bigger commitment.
Okay.
Schitt's Creek is like 6 seasons and I think 10 to 15 episodes per season.
Yep.
Bob's Burgers is now on season 14.
That's a lot of seasons.
And there's like 20 something episodes per season, but they're like, it's incredible.
Okay.
I don't know a ton of people that watch it, but it's clearly popular because
there's
season 14.
Seasons. Yeah.
What about you? Do you have any that you rewatch?
I will listen to, I don't usually have shows on in the background because my mind's like, I need to watch that show.
Yeah.
But I have been, I don't even think I've watched it entirely, but I watched pieces of it. And now that it got re-released on Netflix, I've been going through Suits.
Oh, yes.
And I'm addicted to watching that show.
Yeah. I've heard that because it came on Netflix. It's like number one.
Yeah.
My parents are watching it for the first time. Juice at our Saratoga campus is watching it again. Taylor Choate at our Mountain View campus is watching it for the first time. I was like, why is everybody watching this show all of a sudden?
So good.
Because it got on Netflix.
Kind of makes me want to be a lawyer, but at the same time, I don't want to be a lawyer.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
Kinda
okay.
All right.
We've actually done karaoke before.
Yes, we have.
My birthday party, actually.
Yep.
We did an early 2000s karaoke party.
Was fun.
It was really fun. Shout out to our very own Rochelle Summers, who a lot of you have heard. She hosted it for me, and Taylor Choate. So, what is your go-to karaoke song? Or next time you do karaoke, what song do you want to sing?
Ooh. I usually live in like pop punk era. Like that's what fits my voice the best. But there was one song recently that I sang, and it was by One Republic.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember them?
Yeah.
Yes, it was one of their. I don't remember the actual title of the song. It was one of their first ones that.
Too Late to Apologize.
Might have been that one.
The big one. That was like their first big hit. Okay.
So that one, or I'm trying to do Take On Me. I feel like I could get that done, but that's a stretch. So
Take On.
Yep, exactly.
I feel like you need a background singer for that. Yes, I will do it.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say.
You actually at that party helped me live my middle school and high school fantasy of being in a boy band.
Yep.
It was, I think, you and Matt Summers, Brett Corton, and Keith Riley, and me, and we did NSYNC.
It was great.
All-time favorite boy band.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
You're welcome. What's your next song? I know you already have it planned out.
Oh man, I go to karaoke all the time. The next one I wanted to do, I'm getting into my late 90s, like rock era, you know?
Yeah.
So the next one I want to do, oh shoot, I don't try to remember the name of it. It's an Incubus song.
Drive?
No, it's shoot. Oh, it's gonna bug me.
It's okay.
I'll figure it out.
Nice.
I'll remember. But it's a good one. It's Pardon Me.
Oh.
Pardon me while I burst
Yep.
into flames.
Nice.
You know, to throw out something
works.
different instead of Britney Spears all the time. Not all the time. I've done her once.
Awesome. You're also a huge music person.
I am.
And
As I'm singing everything that I sing.
Obviously. And you love going to concerts.
Yes.
I know you probably can't identify one singular best concert.
Yeah, honestly.
But when I ask what are some of the best concerts you've been to, what comes to mind?
Okay. The first one that actually does come to mind is I saw Queen with Adam Lambert.
Whoa.
So R.I.P. Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, you love Queen.
One of the most amazing voices in the history of the world. And yes, so Queen, I grew up on Queen. Shout out to my parents for listening to awesome music when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And I cried. I've seen them twice and I cried because they just do such a good job of a tribute to Freddie instead of trying to be him. And it's incredible. Man, some of my other favorites are smaller bands that not a lot of people have heard of. I just recently saw a band called Joseph. It's three sisters. And it was just absolutely incredible. It was up in San Francisco. Just such an awesome show. Any show at the Greek Theater in Berkeley, if you haven't been there, check it out. The Lumineers, nice. Mumford & Sons, Avett Brothers. I saw Florence and the Machine.
Whoa, cool.
That's just such a beautiful venue. You can't go wrong there. Those are probably some of my top. I'm actually going to a concert tonight, speaking of.
Oh, cool.
Gonna go see Jimmy Eat World up at the Masonic. I've seen them a ton. They are incredible in concert, so that might be jumped up on my list. Oh, another really good one I went to recently is called Penny and Sparrow.
Okay.
Another very chill, incredible voices, harmonies. Oh, so good. See, I could just keep listing. I just keep thinking of them.
It seems like Penny and Sparrow would also be a place you would go to the city for a rooftop bar. I feel like that's a good rooftop bar name.
It is. I do have a list in my Google Maps of the best rooftop
do.
bars in San Francisco.
Sure you do. Nice.
All right. Any concerts for you?
I think one of the best big concerts I've been to was Coldplay. That one was just
I've never seen
fantastic. I also saw Chance the Rapper a long time ago at Hollywood Bowl. That was sweet. A few Jason Mraz concerts has been really good. I've seen Alan Stone a few times at some of the smaller venues in the city. And then this band called Lawrence.
Oh, yes.
I love them.
Yeah, you guys just went last year sometime, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I'm super excited because I think in September we're going to see one of my favorite bands of all time, King's Kaleidoscope.
Oh, yes.
Yes. We're going to see them. I think they're coming up here.
I was going to say they're playing. I think someone emailed me saying, do you want them to play at your church?
And you should have said, yes, Mark will host them.
Okay, next time.
Yes, that would have been rad.
Oh,
so
that would be
super
really cool.
excited for that.
Yeah. Okay, my turn.
Yeah.
I actually don't know this about you.
Okay.
Are you a reader? Do you like to read books?
I like to listen to books.
Okay, audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
So are there any books that you've read multiple times?
Oh, definitely.
Like, and which ones?
Yeah. There's quite a few that I've revisited over the years. One recently that I revisited that I was super let down by. Do you remember reading Hatchet in school? It was like the story about this kid that I want to say was in an airplane, and I wanted Alaska area.
Okay.
I don't know. Sorry if I'm butchering this, but essentially there was a plane crash and he had to survive, and all he had was his hatchet.
Oh.
And so for like 5th grade Mark, I was, or whatever this was, like, this is awesome.
Oh,
like,
wow.
he's just on a camping trip. And like,
that happened to me. I want to get a plane crash.
and so I remember really liking it as a kid, and then I read it again. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, kind of let down.
This is why this was given to fifth graders.
Exactly. There are a few like motivational books that I'll revisit. A couple authors or like I'm kind of big in like the self-help section or like leadership section. So like definitely not like super Christian authors, but like a book by a guy named David Goggins is really good. There's some like ex-Navy SEAL guys that are like super interesting with like their leadership takes and stuff. Like Jocko Willink, I've read his book a few times. But if I was to like read for fun, I've been on like a weird visit the high school classics, like the Orwells or the like Fahrenheit 451 by Bradbury
Farm. And,
yeah. So I've been on that recently, which has been kind of interesting.
Let me know. I'm like, I kind of want it. I'll be honest. I don't even know if I actually ever read them like you were supposed to, but I don't
definitely
remember.
did. Yeah.
So let me know if they're good.
Yeah. Oh, they're super interesting because it's like they're still relevant today.
Yeah.
And so that on top of like Ruthless Elimination by Comer.
Oh, yeah.
I've read that book quite a few times because it's just like when I get done with it, I've already forgotten the most important parts because I'm already hurrying again. So I reread that one a lot.
Dang it, I missed the whole concept of the book.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So what about for you?
I want to be a reader so bad. I love reading and I like audiobooks and all of that stuff, but it takes a lot for me to like really do that. But the books I read over and over again are the Harry Potter series. Yeah. Huge fan. Third book's the best book. Yeah. Really love them. I've actually read The Great Gatsby a couple times as well. Yeah. Yeah. So good. Yeah.
And Anthony Bourdain's memoir. Have you ever read it?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Really
See,
good.
I like those ones, like on audiobook especially. The Tina Fey one, Amy Poehler did one, Mindy Kaling, and they all like read their own books and they like brought, I think it was Amy Poehler, like brought in guests to like co-read with her. Those were really fun.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Everyone will know this about you by listening, but you are like one of the most positive and energetic people that I know most of the time.
Yeah. Thank you.
When the cameras are on, you're like a little extra sometimes, but it's coming from a place of not like disingenuousness. It's just like you get excited when there's people around. Yeah. So what helps you maintain your positivity?
I get excited when the attention is on me.
Is that really what it is?
Yeah. Sometimes. It depends on the mood too.
Okay.
How do I maintain my positive attitude? Wow, that's a great question. I don't know. I honestly, like, this is going to be a horrible answer because if anyone's ready to like write down like what they can do, it's just like inherent in me. Like
it
my
seems
mom,
like it's pretty natural for you.
My mom and I are like almost the same person. We are very positive people. I'm an Enneagram 7, if you know anything about that. So just, you know, looking on the brighter side of things and trying to find the fun in every situation. I think part of it now, thinking about it, is like when other people are sad around me, that makes me sad. But as a 7, I don't want to stay sad. So instead of just trying to remove myself from the situation, I want to make them happy as well. Right. Let's have a little therapy session here. But I think, it's also a balance of making sure like they're in the space to want to feel better, because sometimes you need to like live in the grief with them, live in the sadness with them, live in the hard. But then, you know, throw in a couple of jokes here and there. So yeah, I don't know if that's like a great answer, but it's just kind of just the way God made me.
Cool.
What about you? You're a pretty positive person.
I'm pretty positive. I can usually see the positives of things.
Yeah.
Even in the negatives.
Same.
Or my brain is less about revert to positivity, as it's like everything is a growing and teachable moment.
Yeah.
So that kind of removes me from a lot of things too. Like in hard situations, I'll already be thinking about, like, even as I'm in them, how could I have done this better or grow or like what can I be learning from this now? And in health, that looks like positivity. And sometimes when it's not, it's like negative self-talk.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's positive.
Now I'm thinking, we were talking about the Enneagram the other day, and Mark's still a little unsure of what his number is. That right there was a 3 statement of trying to, like, what could I learn from this?
Yeah.
Interesting. If you're a longtime listener and you think you know Mark's Enneagram,
yes, please.
Text it in, 650-600-0402.
I've been asking and answering this question for like the last 5 years since I figured out that churches are super into Enneagrams, because I didn't know what that was before that.
Mine either.
I'm sure it existed before that. Did it?
Probably.
Okay. But I have no idea what I am still.
I mean,
I think I've narrowed it down.
You thought you were a 2 for a while, and you're definitely very like helpful and put others first. But I feel like a lot of 2s are like, I feels like there's not just a thing called being a 2. It's like if you're a 2, you're like to the extreme of like, I have to help everybody, put everybody first. Not in a bad way.
Okay.
Well, could be in a bad way, but so yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Things to think on. Okay, besides this podcast.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite podcast?
Definitely. All of mine are like hobby centric. And so there is a podcast about fly fishing that I love, of course. It's by Tom Rosenbauer, who's basically just fish Jesus, fly fishing Jesus. He's just the guy. Like,
I mean, Jesus was a fisher of men.
Yes,
so.
Exactly. And he's a fisher of trout and all of other things. So, he's just like one of the biggest people in the fly fishing world. And he puts out a podcast, which I really love. And I take ideas from him to try to do here, because he structures his podcast with what he calls, I think it's called the fly box, where listeners will send in questions and audio files. And then he just starts each podcast with listener questions. So like, you just don't know what you're going to get.
We should totally do that.
I know. So if that's a good idea to you, let us know that you think that's a good idea. And if we hear from enough of you, then we'll absolutely start our podcast with that.
That'd be fun.
Because I think it's super fun. And sometimes he brings on guests to help answer those questions.
Okay.
And then he gets into like his interviews of his episodes.
So is it like he's not playing it blind?
No. So he has read through all of them, or has curated, like, people will send in audio files. So he'll play the audio files on there. And then he will answer them or get someone else to answer them. Yeah, it's really interesting. So if you think that would be helpful and fun for us to do as a podcast, you being all of the people that are listening, let us know. And then we could start doing that.
So tell me more about, like, what does he talk about? Is it all about fly fishing? Like how, like, tutorials or
all sorts
best
of stuff.
Spots to fly fish?
It's super nerdy.
Okay.
And like, it can be anything from like how to catch these kind of fish to like, let's talk about the life cycle of this bug, because the fish will eat that bug. And so if you can understand the lifestyle, you can understand how to catch fish better.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like
Who knew there was
sciencey,
so
water
much to
ecology.
fishing?
Oh yeah. It's a lot. I think that's why I like it so much.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty layered, and it's like a puzzle that changes, that you have the pieces most of the time. And if you can put them together, then you can catch fish. And if you put it together really well, you catch a lot of fish or a big fish. So, yeah, it's fun because it goes back into learning. So I feel like I'm learning something every time I listen.
Well, then that answer is that you're a 5, because they're like the learner.
So I'm a 3 and a 5.
Maybe you're a 4 and you're 3 and 5, so you're strong wings. Okay,
what podcast are you into?
Oh, well, mine's a very different answer, but if you know Mark and I, we're different people. I go through phases of like either listening to music all the time or listening to podcasts, all that stuff. So right now I'm in a music era, but my podcast that I constantly listen to is called The Popcast.
Yes.
And it's all about pop culture.
Yep.
Things that don't matter is their like slogan. But they're also like Christians, so it's really fun to hear their take on stuff. And they do a weekly episode for people who they're called best. You can be a friend of the show or a best friend of the show if you support them on Patreon.
Are you a best friend?
I'm a best friend of the show.
Of course you are. It's a tie.
And they do a weekly, like, it's called The More You Know.
Okay.
And it's just like pop culture recap from the last week. And so that's where I get all of my, and they're so funny. It's a guy and a girl. She's a 7. He's, oh my gosh, I think he's a 5. That would be really weird if you were a 5 then. So they're just like, they make it super fun, but they also like, they just talk about the weirdest stuff. And it's really fun. They also have another podcast called The Bible Binge, where I've like tried to want to do this here without completely copying them, but they like tons of different things. But one of the things they do is they read like through a Bible story, but then they like connect it to pop culture by like casting the characters. So like we're doing the story of Moses, and Moses is going to be played by Christian Bale, and then like, which actually was a movie, and he did play Moses, but and then his sister is played by whoever, and then they just talk through it more like it's the story side of it, and they like make fun of it, but then they also kind of like not make fun of it, make light of it, but then also like dig deeper of like things that they've learned, and so it's pretty cool. It's fun.
Cool way to approach scripture.
Yeah,
interesting.
It's great.
I also love the Bible Project podcast too. Again, super deep, and it's like you're in a seminary class because their episodes are like hour and something long, and then like 15 episodes in length to figure out like just this one theme or concept or book study.
Ooh.
So that's been super interesting too.
The other one, I think I mentioned this last week, is called Bama, that I listen to. Very similar to that, where it's going through the Bible and just reading it more through an Eastern Jewish religious lens.
Interesting.
So like how it was actually supposed to be read. It's very fascinating, very good. When especially with this sermon series that we're in, the rest of the story, there's like things that, I remember like when Adam did his talk on Noah and the Ark. I was like, he'd like shared a couple things that like, you might not know if you just read the Bible story. But he also is a listener of Bama, and so he shared a couple of things, and I was like, I already know that stuff because I listened to that podcast. Like the rainbow and the clouds, you know, and then actually just a bow is the actual word and that kind of stuff. But it's really, really fascinating.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Jess, when did you decide to follow Jesus for yourself?
Ooh.
We've talked about, as we're in this series where we're revisiting our childhood interpretations, we've heard amazing stories like you standing on top of Bibles and getting in trouble for it, and like memorizing all the songs and all of that. But at what point did that turn into your awesome, sweet missionary parents taking you to church?
Yeah.
And then you saying, I want to go to church.
Yeah. This is a hard one for me because I did grow up in the church. My grandpa was a pastor. My mom worked at the church. My dad was an elder. Went to the same church for most of my life. My parents went there for 30-something years. So church was always a thing. I always wanted to go. I always wanted to go to the youth group. I always wanted to go to the college group, all this stuff. I had a little bit of break in my early 20s. Still completely followed God, but just was like, I'm going to take a break from church. So making it my own is such a, there wasn't like one specific moment where I was just like, this is my faith, But, every summer camp, every winter camp in high school, I would rededicate my life to Christ because, clearly didn't work the first couple thousand times I did it. But it probably wasn't until I was in like my late 20s, maybe more like mid 20s, actually when I first started coming to Menlo, because I grew up in the same church, I like knew everybody knew me, everybody knew my parents. And so it was just kind of like, there you are. Like, I'm just there.
Right.
But coming to Menlo, I remember walking in, not knowing anybody. I mean, I knew a couple people because I had started before I came on a Sunday morning, I started helping with the high school group at the Mountain View campus. And so I knew a couple of the high school kids, and I knew the other volunteers, and I knew the director, and like that was it. And so it was such a unique experience walking into a church and just knowing nobody.
Yeah.
And so I think probably around that time is when I fully started making it like my faith, because it was like, this is my church.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't the church I grew up in. This isn't my parents' church. I think my grandma even worked at the church for a little bit. And so it's like, this was my church, my faith, making it my own. Yeah. So I think it was probably like around then, early 20s. And then it's just been a constant, journey and ups and downs and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
Kind of similar. I mean, I've shared before that my mom was my children's minister growing up.
Yes.
Which was sweet. But I think
is she a listener? So I feel like there's been a couple times you've mentioned her and asked questions, and
I think she listens now and again.
Okay.
I don't think it's her normal rhythm of listening. She's trying to get plugged into a church down south in Orange County, and so I think she's been kind of trying to try out different church stuff down there. But it was probably end of high school is when I really was like, yes, I want to do this for myself. Because like you, I'd go on Sundays. I would attend. There was youth group, or we called it Basic Brothers and Sisters in Christ.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is basic, but
that was our high school hangout.
That's funny.
It was awesome.
Basic. That's clever, actually.
But I never really felt like I fit in, and that was more of a me thing than it was a church thing.
Yeah.
And so I just, I think towards the end of high school, I just had to decide, like, this isn't something, like, I'm not going because I think it's super fun, even though it was sometimes, or like I love the people there, because I did, but I also felt like I was an outsider too. And so it was just like a kind of a decision that I just needed to rely more on God based off of where I kind of was, and through some great conversations and interactions, it was like, okay, like, I think I'm going to do this. And so I, similar to you, kind of when I went away to college at Cal Poly, I wouldn't really attend church very much while I was there, but never identified as not Christian.
Did you go? They had a really big Christian organization on their campus.
They did, yeah.
What's
there
it
was
Campus Crusade? Is that what it was?
That was big.
Yeah.
There was a few others that were around too.
Okay.
I tried to get plugged in. Again, it wasn't really a super great fit, and that was more of a me thing than anything else. And so, yeah. But it was probably in those early, like late teens, early 20s when I was like, yeah, this is for sure.
Cool.
For sure. Yeah. Pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, as you can tell, Mark has more deep spiritual questions, and then my fun Enneagram 7 lighthearted questions are here. But you know what? That's exactly, you're getting to know us. Yeah, this is us. Yeah. So, do you have a bucket list vacation destination? I feel like you are, so one of the questions, I just like Googled some fun questions. One of the questions was like, what's the tallest building you've ever been on? And it made me think of how you just climbed, was it Mount Whitney?
I did.
Last year, whatever it was. And so that made me think of this, like, is there another like mountain you want to climb, or just in general, another vacation, or both?
I don't know if I want to climb any more mountains.
That was enough?
Because if they get any taller, then I need like ice training and stuff. And like, I don't really know if I want to go in that direction.
Yeah.
But fishing wise, I have a fish destination bucket list.
Okay.
And then I have a like Missy travel destination bucket list.
Yes.
And then I have like a family with like my parents and stuff.
Okay, let's hear it.
I would love to take my parents to Italy or somewhere in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
I don't think my dad has ever been to Europe, and my mom used to travel there for business.
Okay.
When she was working at what is now Boeing. But I don't think she ever like spent time in Italy or on the coast there. So I'd love to take them to that, because that would just be a really amazing trip for them.
Is your sorry, one of your parents is Japanese?
Yeah.
Is the other one Italian?
No, my mom is French, Irish, and Dutch.
I didn't know if there was a specific reason for Italy.
We just love Italy.
It's freaking beautiful and amazing.
Yeah. Or just anywhere in the Mediterranean, really. Italy's, I feel like my mom would really enjoy the culture and the the history of the church
Oh,
there.
totally.
Yeah, so she would really love that.
Okay.
Fishing bucket list is definitely the Amazon.
Oh,
There's some crazy fish down there.
You
that
and
I
Phil
catch.
can go on this trip together.
I would love that. And then with Missy, we want to see the Northern Lights.
Oh, yes. I'll go with you too.
Please.
Yeah.
I think Brett and Taylor are going to go and do that.
Oh.
Jealous.
So, yeah, when I was in Iceland, that was the main reason I chose to go to Iceland, and it was too overcast the whole time.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
All right. What are your bucket list destinations?
All of them. Yeah.
Shocker.
I know, right? Definitely like Greece, the Amalfi Coast is like a huge bucket list item. Yeah. But hopefully next summer or next year sometime, I would like to do a little triangle of Ireland, Scotland, and Norway.
Okay.
Because when I was in Iceland, they said if you want better chances to see the Northern Lights, Norway is actually a better spot.
Sweet.
And then one of my best friends, her sister lives in Scotland. Mm-hmm. And so she was like, I kind of want to go out and visit her. And I was like, I will come with you. And then Ireland is just so beautiful. So, and I actually like looked on a map, like what's near each other. And I was like, great, look at that.
Yeah.
So that's my like hope for next year to do that. But
cool.
I've actually like never been to Canada either. And I would love to like go to Banff. I don't even know how to say that right. Yeah. And some of like there's just some really beautiful gorgeous. Like lakes and just like beautiful scenery everywhere. Mm-hmm. An Alaskan cruise would be so fun. Would be really also fun, in Norway, killer whales. Orcas are like my jam. So it's like the Alaska and or Norway. Yeah. Like, I mean, they're in the Bay Area and I still haven't seen them every time I've gone whale watching. But
what you like to do?
What?
Which you like to do a lot.
Yes, I do like to go whale watching a lot. Mm-hmm. But
fun.
Someday. Okay. Oh, no, it's your question again.
So, it's like the most deepest level that we're going to
Should I do my
today.
Question and then end with this one? Okay. I have one more lighthearted question. Who would you want to play you in a movie of your life?
Keanu Reeves.
Oh my gosh. Why is that perfect?
Because everyone says I look like him.
You kind of do.
I kind of want to grow my hair out and like do the Keanu Reeves, like kind of long, kind of short.
Do you know what his country of origin is?
I think he is a little bit Hawaiian and something else too, if I'm not mistaken. Which is kind of like me, just all mixed up. We call it Hapa.
He's actually Canadian.
Oh.
I mean, obviously there's, oh wait, here. Born in Beirut and raised in Toronto.
Okay.
But it doesn't say anything else about.
Oh. Hapa just means like half something else.
Yeah, probably.
So that would be really cool.
I could see that.
But I feel like
Lebanese.
He's not as energetic as I am. He's like calm, cool, and composed, which I am sometimes when I'm like serious work mode Mark. But like natural Mark is not that.
His mother was an English performer and costume designer, and his father was a Hawaiian geologist.
Perfect. Sweet.
That's really cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
What about for you?
Oh, man. I would say Emma Stone.
Yes.
I'd want her to play me. Actually, someone told me once I looked like her, and I like wanted to like give them the biggest hug and kiss them because she's gorgeous. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. But it's also, you know, like the light skin, red hair, super funny.
Yep.
Yeah.
So classic. Fun. So Jess, we've been in this series and it's brought up a lot of talks about what we used to believe around or what we were told as kids at the capacity that we were at with Bible stories, and now revisiting them along this line of if you don't grow up with your faith, then you'll grow out of it.
Yeah.
And so I know this has been
Such
a big part of your journey. So what have you learned from deconstruction and reconstruction, and how has that journey been, and how has that shaped your view of God now? Yeah.
I do have to give a classic Menlo Midweek shout out to Scott Pombush, who preached this last Sunday.
Yes.
He said the phrase
What was it?
NSFG, not suitable for flannel graph. And I was like, the fact that this is not our sermon series makes me really sad. I was.
That's
It was so good.
fantastic.
I'm sorry. I just had to throw that out there. That was one thing I was going to talk about if we interviewed Scott, but he's on vacation. That's why we're doing this.
Yes.
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think for me, the biggest thing has been turning my focus just onto Jesus. Because obviously he's been a big part of my life, my faith, all of that stuff. But there's so many other, tasks, if you will, that you go to church, you read the Bible, you have your quiet time, you are in a life group, you go, and if you're specifically at Menlo, you go to Starting Point, all those things, which are all wonderful things that you should be doing. But it was so easy to get caught up in doing those things, especially working at a church. Like my faith is the church, or like my faith is my job. So what I do at my job is connected to God. So I'm constantly thinking about him. So that's enough. Right. So I think through this whole process, and even through our, what was the series last year?
Which one?
Was it Dustin Divine? No, that's the song.
That's the song.
It was that
Human?
series though, Being Human. I think that was it, or the one after it, where it was all just focused on Jesus and like who he was and what he did. I'm gonna look it up too, because we're both like in this.
Being Human was blue and white graphics, and the one after that was gold. Was it the gold one? It's funny how my brain remembers that and not the actual.
Wait, this is 2023. Being Human, not Get in the Game. That wasn't it. I think it must have been. Oh no, the Colossians series. That's the one.
Yeah.
Sorry if you were listening. You're like screaming the name at us. Yes, that series was so good. It was like so timely for me. Just really like putting the focus back on Jesus. I think with the culture right now of like a lot of people disliking evangelicals, disliking really far right-wing people, disliking you hear the name Christian and you cringe. All of those things have been really difficult as I associate myself as a Christian, someone who follows Jesus. And grew up in an evangelical church and, all that stuff. And so being able to kind of put everything else on the back burner and focus more on who Jesus is and what he did and what he was about and what he's still doing just really shaped continues to shape my thought processes, my job, my life, my quiet time, all of that stuff. So it's just been really sweet to... Especially that series was just these little reminders of like, you hear these big statements of like what the church believes. And it's like, that's not even what Jesus said, did, or believed. And so, so I think it's just been a really cool opportunity for me to kind of shift and like change course a little bit. And just like, there's so much that he came for the poor. He came for the sick. He came for the lowly. He hung out with all those people. He, spoiler alert, was not white. And like, a lot of those things, just kind of like learning more about like all of that stuff has just been really, really special.
Yeah. What a journey.
Yeah. What about you?
It's interesting because I feel like my mind doesn't really grapple with deconstruction and reconstruction as much as it grapples with different church doctrine amongst different denominations.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And so I always thought there was one right one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like growing up in my little Free Methodist church, I thought every church on Sunday would hear, think, and believe something the exact same as I did.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that there was, or didn't even think like, oh, there's a reason why these names are different on church buildings. And so just trying to, sort out where I land in the spectrum of evangelical Christianity. And it's just been a lot of questions, and I've had to seek a lot of counsel with that, but always wanting to try to not make it framed as I was lied to or this or that, but more so just as I understand faith more, where do I feel like I understand God to be present in? And so, yeah, I don't know if that's, relieving or comforting or just offers up more questions.
Yeah.
And sometimes I go down that whole rabbit hole too, but it's less about, the deconstruction of faith itself and more about trying to figure out my place in it.
Almost the deconstruction of your, I don't even want to say belief system because that feels like a big word too. Mm-hmm. Just the way, we were taught. I think part of it too is like we were taught a lot of things in black and white. Like you said, like I thought that there was the Methodists were the right denomination, and if there was another one, they had it wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Yeah, I didn't even know like the differences.
Yeah.
It's like I grew up with a woman pastor.
Yeah.
And I thought that was totally fine for everyone. I had no idea some people don't think that's okay.
I grew up at a church where we were not allowed to have women pastors.
And so having conversations about those later in life were a little bit shocking because I'm like, whoa, I thought we were all on the same team here.
Yeah. Aren't we Team Jesus? Like, what's happening?
Like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
And so,
that's cool.
It's been interesting.
Has there been anything specific that you've learned recently that has really kind of maybe not shocked you, but just been kind of like, oh, that's good?
I think I've learned to appreciate different things and appreciate aspects and parts of denominations that aren't necessarily mine.
Okay.
So, I really loved and appreciated the reverence of going into a Catholic church in Italy.
Oh, my gosh.
You cannot go in there if you have bare shoulders and shorts above your knees and 90 degrees in summer because this is a reverent place where God exists. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, there's something to that. Or there's something to a structured mass.
Yeah.
I didn't attend one, but I kind of observed about 15 minutes of one as I was trying to see what was happening. And so super interesting. I also really love the spirit-filled worship of Pentecostal churches. I think that's really fun and exciting.
Yeah.
And so there's something about that is just like, man, that's really, really cool. And so there's things about each denomination that I really love or pieces and parts of that. And then just trying to put them together in the best way or however much overlap there is. I don't know. Or maybe that's what it is now. It's just trying to find my place in all of it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just it's learning to appreciate the differences as opposed to pointing a finger.
Yeah. When you talked about the mass in Italy, it reminded me of when I was in London. I went to St. Paul's Cathedral. I primarily went there because one of my favorite movies is Mary Poppins, and that's where they sing the Feed the Birds song. But then I happened to be there on a Sunday, and there was a list of all the different mass times, and I was right on time. So I was like, oh my gosh. So I go in and just similar to that, the beauty of the structure itself is just unreal. And then, there's something to that specific, we're going to do this and then this and then this and then this. And the song and the preaching and all of this stuff and the scripture is just so historic and just really, really cool. And I cried multiple times because obviously Jesus and God, they're everywhere. But it's you feel the Spirit. You walk in those doors and you look at the building and it's just whoosh, the Spirit of the Lord is present here. And then they had a children's, I don't even know if children's is the right word, choir, a boys' choir. And you're not allowed to take pictures and videos, but I had my phone just on my lap recording, so I wasn't taking it of them, but just getting the sounds. And it was just the most beautiful sound that you will ever hear, and I will never forget that moment. And there is something to that type of service that just kind of takes you to a different place. That just I just was this was such a cool God moment that I got to experience that randomly because I was trying to go find a Mary Poppins thing.
The most Jess reason ever.
I was like, if you didn't know me now, you know me now. Yeah. All of these things are very,
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And I mean, as we're going into fall here at Menlo, we hope that we can bring that excitement or at least that wonder of trying to get people into a space and a place where they can experience God.
Yeah.
And so what are you looking forward to most about where we're headed for fall?
Ooh, that's a great question. Man, we have so many things going on.
Are we allowed to talk about some of them?
Oh, I don't know. What would we not be allowed to talk about? Well, you can't say it here. Well, we talked about the third service launch before.
Okay.
Now I'm like nervous that I shouldn't say anything.
Okay.
I think actually one thing I'm looking forward to besides Christmas, because it's me and I love Christmas and I get to project management every year, and this year's series theme is really fun, so I'm very excited.
Nice.
Stay tuned. But I'm really excited. This hasn't been, if you're on one of these teams, you'll get an email this week. Our team, our creative team, which includes production, online, marketing, and video and all that stuff, as well as the worship team, we're getting our teams together for like a fun hangout night at the end of August.
Yes.
And I am really looking forward to it. I don't usually like those kinds of things, honestly, if I'm completely honest. But we did some planning yesterday with our team, and it was like so fun. And then it's like I get to hang out with Mark and all of our staff, and some of the worship leaders will be there. And so, yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a really fun night. It's just going to be, there's going to be a little bit of like here's where we're at, here's where we're going. But for the most part, it's just going to be hanging out and getting to talk to people and getting to hopefully get some volunteers to come and join our teams. And I'm really looking forward to that.
That's going to be so fun.
What about you?
That's definitely going to be a highlight.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm looking forward to the space that we're recording this in.
Yes.
Being redone.
Oh my gosh, huge.
Yes. So this will probably be the last podcast that we record in this little corner.
Oh no. Oh, well then it is kind of special that it's just the two of us.
It is. Yes.
No offense, Phil.
Because on the other side of this wall is going to be our new podcast area, which got painted. They're just kind of putting some finishing touches on the walls, and then we can go in and decorate it, which will be really fun. And then the space that we're in now will be used for all sorts of video production, leader updates, trainings, maybe even some talks or weekend stuff. So super excited about that. And thank you for those that have reached out to help make this happen.
Yeah.
And again, we're always looking for more help too. So if you have experience building a studio, or you just want to say, hey, I want to come in and help move some stuff around, we'd love to have you. So you can text us at 650-600-0402. And then I think that we have a lot of really cool pieces in where we're trying to connect where we're headed now to basically the future of Menlo. So we're going to be, giving a lot of kind of higher level vision talks about, man, this is where Menlo has been for the last X years. And this is where we want to go, and this is where we're headed. And I'm super excited for that. Because it feels like, I don't know, as we've been at, you've been here 8 years, 9 years?
11.
11. Jeez.
On staff 11 in September.
Okay.
But I think it's 12 or 13 now as a patron
so
of
you've
the church.
seen like twice as much as I have. But basically, in the time that I've been here, it just has always felt like, as for me personally, and probably for you, like for such a time as this, like we're here for this reason.
Yeah.
And it sounds like in Menlo's history, like this is a cool moment where we're coming out of a pandemic. We're going into a new season with a new senior pastor. And so it just feels like there's a lot of opportunity there, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for where we're headed.
I don't think it's not allowed to be announced, but if you didn't know, Menlo Church is going to turn 150 years old.
Yes.
In November. So we've got some fun things getting planned for that.
Yep.
There's a lot going on this fall.
Yeah.
We're going to have Halloween events that we do every year, Trick or Treat Extravaganza. We'll have Starting Point come again. We're going to launch something else that's going to be like if you can't go to all 3 or 4 weeks of Starting Point, this one Sunday a month kind of thing. Just a lot of really cool stuff coming down the road. But I will tack on, I'm very excited for our new podcast studio.
Definitely. And excited to hang out with all of you.
Yeah.
All of the online people that are listening.
Yeah.
We're hopefully going to have another barbecue hangout before the summer's over. And so we have a great volunteer, shout out to Carol, working on that now. So
Hi, Carol.
Yes. Hi, Carol. And so that's going to be really exciting, just connecting more with our online people. So we hope that you enjoyed this time.
Yeah.
And are looking forward to getting to know some of the campuses better, as well as our central team. I think we're going to have a central team day takeover too. And
do we know when those are coming out? I forget. Starting next week? 2 weeks.
2 weeks from now,
Okay.
I believe. Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll have a midweek with Cheryl next week.
Yep.
And then we're gonna get taken over.
Yeah.
By the campuses.
Yeah.
So
are we still gonna do regular Menlo midweek?
I think so.
Okay. Phil will be back, and
Phil will be back.
let us know if you don't want us to do it. Just kidding.
Yeah. Well, all right, everybody. Have a wonderful week. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you have any questions or want to ask certain people on certain campuses questions, send them in. We'll pass those along to them.
Literally send in any question you have.
Yeah, and if you want to do something similar where we answer your questions about faith or Christianity or anything to start out these podcasts, we'd love to know that too.
We should figure out because I think the phone number we have is just a text service. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to link a voicemail to that phone number?
I think you can call that number and leave a voicemail. Yeah.
There you go.
So if you want to leave us a voice message. All right.
I heard you can now leave FaceTime voice messages too.
Me too.
Which is really funny.
Some of the jokes about that are awesome.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Have a good week.
Bye.
See you soon.